Okay, I missed doing a show yesterday. It's been a crazy week. Like I mentioned before. Nothing insurmountable, just kind of like a death of a thousand cuts as far as you know, a whole bunch of stuff happening. It's been annoying more than anything else. But yesterday I was just worn out, so I slept most of the day. Didn't get around to doing a video. So I definitely wanted to make sure I got a video done today because tomorrow I'm now working a 12-hour shift, and Monday I'm working a 12-hour shift, and Tuesday I'm working. So that means I'm working for like over a week straight with no day off. My next day off, I believe, is Sunday. So and I probably won't be doing a video on Sunday because that's usually when I take a day off from this channel. So yeah, I figure I owe you one today because I don't know if I'm going to get one done. I usually don't do on Sunday, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to get one done on Monday. So the next one I'm going to be able to do is going to be Tuesday at the very earliest, and probably like later on Tuesday because usually that's how it's been going lately. When I have the day off, is I wind up sleeping most of the day and do one like later on in the evening or something. But I did definitely want to get Wildcat opened, and I'd promised that Wildcat would be the next one I opened. So let's have a look at this piece of artwork on the back, which is unusual because for the first time in a long time, this is actually a photograph of the action figure, but they ran it through some filters to make it look like comic book artwork, which is strange to me because it's not like there's a dearth of comic book artwork of Wildcat. Oh, by the way, Wildcat JSA, that's what figure this is. You can see its gold label, and we all know what that means. That means it was a store exclusive, and this one is at Target. I believe the other exclusive that's out at the same time as this one is Orion, but I haven't had a chance to pick up Orion yet. I thought about picking him up when I picked up this one, but I just wasn't sure how much money I had left, and it turned out to be a good thing because I had like an issue with my bank. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but it all got cleared up, so I'm fine now. But for a minute, it just took a while for my check to go through because of various reasons, and I wound up not. Usually, my paycheck goes through like really early Saturday morning, and I wound up not my check didn't go through until like really early Wednesday morning. So you can see how that would put me in a little bit of a bind. Anyway, let's go ahead and get them opened up. So we have the tape cut at the bottom, and it seems like the box is wanting to get caught up on itself, but I got it. And we got the bubble with the figure in it. Let's set that aside for a second, and we'll go ahead and get on this trading card. And unfortunately, the bubble and the for the trading card and the stand are not the same bubble this time, but I was able to get the card off just fine, so that's good. It's just usually when they're on the same bubble, it's easier for me to get the trading card off. But it wasn't a problem this time, thankfully. And then we have the figure stand. It is the standard DC Multiverse figure stand, matte black figure stand with a glossy black DC logo on it. So let's go ahead and set that aside. Wildcat does not come with any accessories whatsoever, which if there's a guy who does not need to come with weapons, it's Wildcat. Let's be honest. He's a boxer. His weapons are his fists. That's all he needs. Like he described himself on Justice League Unlimited. I'm Wildcat, the guy who fights. That was Dennis Farina, I believe, that voiced Wildcat on JSA, and he was like the perfect voice for that. He had that right sort of tough guy attitude. In the continuity of DC Comics, especially the post-crisis continuity, Wildcat had an important place in terms of the training of other superheroes. He taught boxing to Batman and Black Canary and Catwoman. So yeah, there we go. He's out of the package. Now, Wildcat's been one of my favorite characters for a long time. One of my favorite JSA members. He actually was not like a very prominent member of the JSA in the Golden Age comics. He only had a few appearances with them in the old comics, but by the time the 70s rolled around and they did the the All-Star Comics revival with the new Justice Society stories and there, the Super Squad stories, Wildcat became a very prominent character in those, especially with Power Girl also being a prominent character, and they had like an interesting dynamic where Wildcat was kind of like the older, sort of a little more not politically conservative, but just kind of socially conservative, sort of I don't need no dame getting in my way, and Power Girl being kind of more of like a 1970s style feminist type character. They had like some friction there, but I like to think that there was like a little bit of a how do we put it, like an affection. I'll put it that way. So Wildcat is a bit of a player. And obviously there would have been a little bit of an age difference between him and Kara, and I don't think he necessarily looked at Kara that way, though, and I don't think she necessarily looked at him that way. But I do think that there was a little bit. There's a reason that it was friction and not outright hatred, is what I'm saying. Hey there, MHD. Yeah, I really like how this one turned out. Like, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I do have some more things I want to talk about. So Wildcat's had a few action figures. DC Direct has done a few, obviously. And when Mattel was doing DC figures, they did a JLU Wildcat. Like I already mentioned, he was featured very prominently on at least one episode of JLU, and showed up in the background of several others. And they did a DC Universe Classics figure. Now, here's the funny story about the DC Universe Classics figure as far as I'm concerned. I want to just talk about that for a minute. So when they put out the DC Universe Classics Wildcat, that was one of the ones where they did a variant figure for it. So it was the same mold, same packaging, everything like that, but they did a paint variant of it. They did a black version and they did a blue version. And I was more interested in the black version because as I look at it, you can see this one's blue. Wildcat is wearing a black costume that has blue highlights on it. So I wanted one that I felt like that was a little more accurate as far as that goes. I can see how somebody would have wanted a blue costume and thought that that was more accurate. But like I said, I felt like the black costume was more accurate. But I found the blue one first. And since I was like, well, I don't want to miss out on Wildcat, so I'll just go ahead and buy this blue one. And if I find the black one later on, then I'll have both of them. Long story short, eventually I did find the black version of Wildcat. And, when I was looking at them both next to each other, I wound up actually liking the blue version more. Because the way I looked at it is like, well, the blue version is almost like he had a black costume, but the dye kind of faded. It was like that kind of blue. And I really appreciated that. And that's kind of like what this Wildcat is. He's about this same color, where it looks like it could have been at one point a black costume that it's just old. He's had it since the 1940s, and the dye is kind of faded from it. So now it's this kind of bluish, purplish color. I really like the buck that they chose to use on Wildcat here. I believe this is Detective Batman again. If I can find where I should have one of those around here somewhere, because I know I've got so many of those at this point. I should have one somewhere around here. I should have the actual Detective Batman. I think last time I checked, he was around here somewhere. I'm not seeing him offhand. But I think that it uses some pieces from that one. Oh yeah, obviously I've got the, come on, get off of there. We've got the Norm Brayfogle Batman, so we can compare. But yeah, I think that this one uses some parts from that, maybe. No, it's not parts from that, but they are pretty similar. I was thinking they had the wrinkles in a similar sort of spot on the abs and on the thighs, but it's actually not at all. This is a close enough body that I'm not sure why they why they even bothered to make a different body in this case, since you know what? I think I know what this might be, actually. If I have him over here, but it doesn't look. Nope, I do. Okay, good. This is Superman. This is Superman. Do I have any Marvel action figures? Yeah, I got like lots of Marvel action figures. In fact, in February, I'm planning on opening up a whole bunch of Marvel action figures because I got a bunch of Marvel Legends that I have acquired recently, and I want to go ahead and get those open. So got a lot of cool stuff coming as far as Marvel. So if you're interested in Marvel, make sure, says a little earlier than usual, you like and subscribe and all that fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment, let me know what Marvel figures you would be most interested in seeing. But yeah, I've got a bunch of Marvel stuff actually on the way. Appreciate the backstory and context. Well, you're welcome. But yeah, this is reusing parts from the Superman body. This is that Superman, but this isn't the original version of that Superman mold. It's that Lee Brahimo Superman mold. You know, looking at it and realizing how similar that these parts are, I kind of wonder why they did an entirely new body for Detective Batman and didn't just recycle some of these parts or vice versa. I forget which one came out first, but yeah, this is reusing a lot of parts from Superman, which means these are probably the same trunks that are on Superman Blue. So that's probably why that is. So yeah, Superman. Okay, but that explains why I like the way this body looks, because it's not that sort of newer buck that they use a lot. Which since I happen to have the Riddler handy, always have the Riddler handy. He's always hanging around. You can see what I'm talking. He's a little bit bulkier than that body. So, and he should be, because he's a heavyweight boxing champion. You know, like he shows up in New Frontier, one of my favorite comics of all time. And oh, I can actually show you. I think I got that nearby, don't I? Oh, I thought I did. It might have slipped under the couch or something, but I usually try to keep it next to the couch so I can look at it when I want to. I'm gonna one day do a video talking about New Frontier because I enjoy that comic so much. I don't do a whole lot of comic reviews on here, but I'll talk about that one because I love that comic. Rest in peace, Darwin Cook. Anyway, in that story, he fights a young boxer named Cassius Clay. I don't know if you ever would have heard of him. That's kind of an obscure name, isn't it? But you definitely would have heard of Muhammad Ali. I'm just saying. All right. So anyway. But yeah, Wildcat was Ted Grant, a heavyweight boxer who, you know, was inspired to become a superhero when he saw a bunch of kids sitting around on a stoop reading Green Lantern comics. That's Alan Scott, the Golden Age Green Lantern, and it inspired him to become a costumed crime fighter himself. So he made himself a cat costume and rode around on a motorcycle and beat the crap out of bad guys, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, Wildcat is one. While he was like a popular enough superhero in the Golden Age, I really think that he became popular during the Bronze Age and later. He did have an appearance in the Brave and the Bold, where it was that kind of mini series within the Brave and the Bold, where it was mostly team ups of Golden Age heroes, mostly Starman and Black Canary. And in fact, he was like the third superhero in one of those Starman Black Canary team ups. And then there was like an Hourman and Dr. Fate team up. But Wildcat showed up in that one. And he was one that Bob Haney had a lot of affection for. So he used him a lot in the Brave and the Bold. And I think that was part of what built up Wildcat's legend. I remember him having an appearance in The Spectre when Neil Adams was drawing that. And like I said, he was very prominent in the 1970s revival of All-Star Comics, and then Jeff Johns' JSA series, which is one of my favorite comic book series of all time. He was very prominent in that one. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. So Wildcat can look up about that far, which is an excellent range of motion as far as looking up. He can look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. I do really like this head sculpt. It's a little more stylized than Wildcat's head often is. Usually they draw it like to be like a very realistic kind of panther-looking head, but this is a little more sort of streamlined and kind of reminds me of Batman's cowl as far as like not necessarily trying to look like a real animal, but trying to look like a mask that's designed to look like an animal. If that makes any sense. Of course, the arms do rotate all around, right around at the shoulders, and he's got butterfly joints, which give him a little more range of motion there. He's got bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion you're going to get at the elbows. New parts that were made for him include the head and the fists and forearms, where you can see he's all taped up like a boxer would be under his boxing gloves. And where was I? Oh, yeah. So he's got the cool Mcfarlane wrist articulation, so you can really move these wrists around whichever way you want. Being a boxer, it's definitely important to have really good articulation at the arms and the torso. So he's got the cool Mcfarlane torso articulation. You can see that rotates all the way around, both where the rib cage meets the midsection and where the midsection meets the waist. So, and you get a lot of cool poses out of him in that way. Wildcat can kick up about that far, and he does have like a slight kind of pivot there, but it doesn't really move a whole lot. He's got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees. He does not have a boot cut. He doesn't have boots, but it does rotate all the way around the cool Mcfarlane ankle joint. Rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the shin and where the ankle meets the foot. So we can get a good range of motion out of that. Doesn't really need a boot cut. Now, one thing I would have done differently if it were me, and I suppose this is probably they couldn't afford to do any more parts, is I would have replaced the toes with like actual, not like toes on a boot, but like, you know, toes. Because sometimes Wildcat is drawn in the costume as having toes on the feet of his suit. But this one just has kind of like regular boot feet. They've got soles on them. It's those kind of like Superman-looking soles. Like Superman has the same sort. Actually, no, Superman doesn't have the same sort of soles because I forgot this is the Librahimo version, so it's a little more. They put a little more detail into it than we're used to seeing on Superman's. But it's kind of just like a thin sole. I feel like that's appropriate because it does look kind of like boxing boots as far as that goes. So for a guy who's got excuse me, I'm a little congested. For a guy who's got a fairly simple costume, Wildcat actually has a lot of good paint detailing on him. You can see that there's some dry brush work on the torso and on the shoulders. And I like that because I kind of think of Wildcat's costume as having kind of a velvety sort of texture, almost like a faux fur kind of thing. And that kind of suggests that. I have to imagine that's probably what they were going for there. Oh, he's got a little, I didn't notice before, he's got a little bit of that dry brushing on the tops of his thighs as well. And then there's a little bit of airbrushing down on his feet, I guess to give him like a shaded sort of look. But you can see it looks like his shoes are black and then fades up to blue as we move up the calf. So excellent action figure. This is one where like it's elegant in its simplicity. I will say that. Wildcat being a character that's not overly complicated, like both in terms of his personality and in terms of you know, the visual look of the character. I have to say that this costume is very fitting of a character that is not a complicated man. He's a very simple man. Like he said on JSA, or I'm sorry, he's in the JSA. Like he said on GLU, I'm Wildcat, the guy who fights, and that's it. That's all. He's a fighter. That's all there is to the character, really. So yeah, and you know, with some characters that might seem like it's just kind of overly simplistic, but it's one of those things where it's like it works for him, you know. And he does have like a little bit of hidden depths as far as that goes. I appreciate that Wildcat wound up kind of becoming one of the mainstay JSA members, even though he didn't start out that way. Once you got into like the 2000s, like I kind of feel like he was a guy who took his place up there with like the big three of the JSA with Flash, and Hawkman and Green Lantern, it kind of became the big four, and Wildcat was the fourth of that. So my Aunt June, who's probably going to watch this at some point, she's a big fan of the Beatles, and I remember her talking about how they weren't really the Beatles until Ringo joined the band. Like they were just George Harrison and John Lennon and Paul McCartney and Pete Best. And once they got Ringo, that was when everything really clicked together and they really became the Beatles. I don't know if I'd go that far with Wildcat and the JSA, but I would go so far as to say like once you got that fourth guy in there to be one of the big four, it just clicked. And to me, that's what the JSA is. It's Green Lantern, Hawkman, Flash, and Wildcat. Oh yeah, I love the Beatles too. The Beatles are awesome. Well, like one of the greatest bands ever. Like there's a reason that they're as beloved as they are. But yeah, my Aunt June was she's like a huge fan of the Beatles. So hopefully she'll get to see this video and she watches like almost all of my videos. She'll probably pop in and make a comment later on. She's probably napping right now. So she likes to see them live when she can, but doesn't always get the chance. But that's okay. Like I like it when she stops by and leaves a comment. So that's always nice. Anyway, that's pretty much it for Wildcat. I'll be back next week with something else to open. I don't know what yet, but and I don't know what day it's going to be exactly, but it's probably going to be Tuesday sometime, unless I'm just too tired, and then it's just going to be Wednesday. Did I not read the back of the trading card yet? I didn't read the back of the trading card yet. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. So here's same piece of quote unquote artwork that's on the back of the package, and there's what the back looks like, and it reads Wildcat JSA data file, real name Ted Grant. In 1941, boxer Ted Grant was framed for murder and on the run when a comic book inspired him to don a costume and track down the real killer. And I'll mention it's a Green Lantern comic, but okay. As Wildcat, Ted cleared his name and, loving the double life, kept going. Specializing in sports-related crimes, he often helped his manager, Stretch Skinner, with the detective agency he ran as a sideline. So, yeah, cool. All right, so that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Wildcat, both this figure and the character. In what time, Tuesday or Wednesday? Who knows? I really don't know. If you wanna see when I go live, hit the little bell, and that'll warn you when I'm going live. But it might be later on in the day, which I'm on United States Eastern Standard Time because you have school. Well, you can always catch the replay if you miss it. That's fine. But yeah, I'll probably that one will probably be sometime later in the evening. You never can tell when I'm gonna go. I wish my schedule was a little more stable as far as that goes. But I pretty much do these when I have the time and the energy. So, like I said, I missed doing one yesterday, unfortunately. But I definitely wanted to make sure I came in today and did Wildcat. Oh, next I do know something I'm going to do next week, as I got the new Target exclusive Batman Forever retro figures, and I'm going to do a series on those. So that's going to be kind of a special series because it's not going to be just unboxings. Hey, thanks for giving my Aunt June a shout out. I'm going to put that up on the screen so she can even see it whenever she watches this. I'm sure she's going to watch it at some point. So, but yeah, I'm going to do comparisons with the original Kenner figures, which honestly is the main reason I bought those, is because I thought it would be fun to do videos where I compared them to the original Kenner figures they're based on. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.